Um, Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. Today's talk is about Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's not about the famous American series, but it's about APIs. So, curb your enthusiasm in scaling your APIs. A quick introduction about ourselves. I'm SathyaKhala Anantharajan, API platform leader from Medibank. I've been with Medibank for close to 2 years, in the technology space for close to 25 years, worked across different industries, technologies across the globe, and played variety of roles. With APIs, I have been in touch for close to a decade, and I have been in organizations where the companies adopted APIs for the very first time, all the way to explosion. And then it always made us think that we should have done better. So we have been there, and this talk is about bringing some of those learnings to you all. And along with me, we have Matangi.
Thanks, Satya. I'm Matangi Vijay. I'm an APA chapter lead at Medibank. I'm passionate and enthusiastic about APIs on all phases, starting from API design and delivery. I take great interest in developing, mentoring, and coaching high performing API teams. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Matangi. So before we go deep into the presentation, I just want to touch on integration. Yeah. So integration has been in the software industry for quite a long time. Right from computing and distributed systems were there. Yeah. It dates back to 1970, from EDIs to RPCs and then EAIs, and then came ESBs and SOAs. The growth of integration has always been tremendous, and with the evolution of and the expansion of microservices and APIs, every organization want to scale in some shape or form, especially post pandemic. Yeah. And within a day, the entire globally, everyone got into lockdown, and we all need to start working from our own houses. So supporting distributed teams, managed services, and managed workplace tools all became a need of the hour. Companies started to think about modernizing their technology. Simplification and transformation became part of their core corporate strategies. Yes, they wanted to create new products, create new revenue streams. They wanted to partner with new third-party systems and things like that. All this allude to API scaling. So this cartoon we all would have seen at least once in our career journey. Yeah, we always wanted to start really simple, manageable, and able to create something that is scalable, right? But over a period of time, it becomes very complex. This picture is true a couple of years before. It is true even now. The nature of complexity has changed, but it has been complex throughout in these years. Um, this is a snapshot of the tools available in the market, and this is taken from apicene.io. So there is close to 2,000 tools available to support API development and API lifecycle management. While most teams and organization wants to adopt these technologies and be ready for growth, they also need to consider the aspects of business, organization, and technology readiness before proliferating these services into the organization. Some insights from the industry are calling out on the major pitfalls or challenges as we scale. Poor developer experience and inadequate documentation. Poor communication. This is not just for API programs alone, but for any kind of projects. As we double or triple up our squads, flow of communication gets the hit, and then the deliverable timelines becomes delayed. And then comes the premature scaling. Companies try to scale very early without thinking about the business and technology readiness, and thereby scaling up too fast brings down the decline. And last but not the least, the security concerns. So this has been the top agenda in most organizations across the globe. A study from Stanford University called out that 59% of the companies slow down on the rollout of new products, mainly because of the security concerns. This immediately negates the benefit of having APIs, because with API, speed to market is the main thing, right? So all these researches does is it's not new, but then it's very important to for us to think through certain scaling considerations before we start expanding. Yeah. So we are going to talk about the six scaling considerations, and the first of which is organizational strategy and its alignment. There are several hurdles delaying our corporate strategy, especially in the digitization with most organizations. This includes legacy systems, and then outdated processes, outdated culture, and lack of enough budget, financial implications, etc. On top of this, having isolations within the same organizations would also have pose various risks in realizing the corporate strategy. Yeah. Research shows that while the business leaders uh, tend to transform their companies into intelligent enterprises, they also struggle with a magnitude of islands of innovation within their organization. And how we bring these islands of innovation into an integrated strategy becomes very, very essential. Yeah. Let's look at an example, or even before that, uh, all these, for example, look at your API strategy and then align it with your digital strategy, with your data strategy, with your security strategy, and with your technology strategy overall. And then all these should have to talk the same language and towards a common goal. That's very, very important. And a quick example from the industry. Blockbuster, one of the leading US rental chain, they had their digital strategy mainly focused on servicing the customers coming to their physical stores. Whereas at the same time, Netflix had a digital led strategy with a well aligned API strategy. And they created their services with well documented APIs, which enable their developers to build the products on top of their platform. This skyrocketed Netflix's performance, whereas Blockbuster was a decline and it went into bankruptcy. So there are tremendous examples such like that in retail industries too. So all we need to do is to bring in an alignment of strategies, and based on which we need to create clear missions to the teams. Yeah, and not having this clear missions will uh, 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 will impact the deliverables of the team, and the teams would be rather focusing on siloed deliverables rather than creating a impactful one. Yeah, and not having this clear missions will also create confused teams trying to rather look busy rather than creating far reaching outcomes. Yeah. And these missions should exhibit few characteristics, such as being very clear, precise, and strategically grounded. They should be valuable and measurable. And above all, they should be holistic in scope such that it's broad enough to create a real impact to its customers. Moving on, API governance and design. So I have been in an organization where very similar API capabilities are built by many different APIs within the organization. And then one to too many catalogs lying around. And then the developer experience, even for the internal developers, would be very difficult and different. Then forget about the external developers, or the external partners who are integrating with our system. So, not having an established API governance standards or principle would make it extremely difficult as we start scaling. Yeah. The other is being or designing our APIs as a provider driven APIs. It's a complete mind shift to think from a provider driven APIs to a customer centric APIs. Yeah. And which is what we wanted to do. So, adopt a design first approach, talk to the business, understand their customer value proposition and customer value chain, understand what kind of products need to be built on our APIs, understand the developer experience who would be using that APIs, and build the APIs with a system agnostic view, bring in the business language so business can understand our APIs and create new products and new revenue streams for our customers. Um, as called out in my very first slide, inconsistent API documentation. I just wanted to touch on a quick example. Like PayPal had a classic API which had given a tough time for the developers integrating with their APIs, mainly because they found it difficult to navigate through their dev portal and their documentation was very bad. And PayPal understood that problem and then they revamped their portal and their documentation. Soon, the adoption of PayPal's APIs skyrocketed. It increased, and that became one of the major payment services across the globe. So here are a few things in terms of governance and design you need to take care of. Provide governance as early as possible. Inbuild governance into your automation as much as possible. Talk to the business and create APIs that are system agnostic and adds value to your products. Yeah. Um, Even though there are comprehensive style guides, linting, and all that has been introduced at the design phases, automated, try to bring in a hybrid design review because do not eliminate that human touch when you do your designs. And above all, consistency and repeatability is the key, which most of which Matangi would also talk in her slides. Over to you, Matangi.
Thanks, Satya. So I would like to draw your attention towards certain technology choices that we need to be making today to create scalable API platforms for the future. Well, the infrastructure should be in a manner that it can grow along with the scale of the way or the scale in which you want your APIs to grow. Looking through the infrastructure up front might seem like an overkill or an antithesis to the quick API development strategy, but like thinking through the factors like which cloud provider to use, what are the availability zones, what is your container management strategy, what is your container scaling strategies or the load balancing strategies would help your infrastructure to grow so that you can create scalable APIs in the future. Unlike certain areas where the mistakes can be easily rectified, infrastructure could be a major disaster for the future if not considered or thought through perfectly. Could stop you from scaling APIs, or you might have to revisit your platform altogether in the future. With a solid infrastructure for the API sorted out, the next consideration would be the choice of technology for your API platform in itself. Like Satya had shown before, there are 2000 plus technologies in the market for creating APIs. So, which one is the right choice for you? Look at your team's API maturity skill. What is your team's most prevalent skill set? What is the area in which the team wants to work or upgrade themselves in the future? Have a consideration between proprietary and open source technologies. Work it out with your budget and the organizational strategy. Also, give weightage to the number of people available in the market with certain skill set. Maybe you're thinking about a niche technology, but how many people are available in the market if you are going to scale the team in the future? So, whichever technology that you're choosing, make sure that it is growing, it has enough support, be it from the open source world or from the vendors, and make it to be an adaptable and sustainable one for your team. Moving ahead, there are certain technology choices that can have a direct impact on the consumer. One such being API security. Having your right authentication and authorization strategy decided upfront will avoid any major changes in your API integrations in the future. For example, Twitter's version 1.0 was shut down in favor of 1.1 in 2013. But this came with very different authentication requirements, and it throwed many third party apps and integrating services. Google Plus platform, which was shut down in 2018, had discovered that there was a major data breach, which resulted in a loss of customer data. Now, these sort of scenarios not only just cause inconvenience to your user, but it also results in a loss of developer trust. So, having these choices made solid upfront will set you up for success when you're scaling your APIs. Well, API security doesn't stop with just these mechanisms, but giving a thought through your vulnerability scanning mechanisms for your images, for your dependencies are very, very important. How efficiently are you managing your definitions? There are new vulnerabilities in the market every day. How are you updating your definitions? Okay, once you identify your vulnerability, how do you upgrade? How do you do currency upgrades? How do you propagate it across all your APIs in an automated fashion? Think through all this and make sure you've got such automated patterns before you start scaling your API platform. API gateway is the first step with which your customer interacts with your API platform. So, having a solid API gateway is very important, which in itself needs to be scalable, performant, and have certain inbuilt features like security, logging, and rate limiting. But also think through certain things like what sort of a request response transformations, etc., that you need before making the right choice for an API gateway. API developer portal, I feel, is the central piece of the API puzzle in itself. It brings in the much talked about API documentation, but it also is the unified API solution for your organization. It brings in a lot of things like discoverability, consistency. It exposes your API layering strategy, and on top of all, it brings a seamless onboarding experience for your consumer. API, see, discoverability might seem very trivial when you start with and you think that you know what you're building. But as your team scales, as your organization scales, discoverability is a very, very important thing to start to avoid you from repeating yourself or creating redundant APIs. API developer portal helps you talk to the non-technical folks in your organization. It can immensely benefit your internal and external consumers by showcasing the businesses, the products, and the solutions that are offered via APIs in your organization. We cannot complete the talk about technology choices without talking about continuous integration and automation. So, having a path to production automated is essential. We spoke about rolling out the currency changes across APIs without having a well integrated CI/CD pipeline. This is not possible. It's equally impossible to do it without a dependable automation framework as well. So, have your choices made out on the automation framework in terms of the tooling to be used. What sort of mocking choices are we going to make? What are the environments that are available and going to be utilized? What is your strategy in terms of functional tests, regression tests, performance tests, or even security and penetration testing? All these are a must have before you can start scaling your API platform. Monitoring and alerting. Well, this is a very, very important area, and we'll be talking more about on the metrics to be measured, etc. as well. But there are certain metadata that you need to consider exposing via APIs even before you start building out your APIs. Think about the dashboards that you would want to build in the future and make sure that your metadata is exposed today. Consider a standard logging platform and logging choices, which are going to be crucial to set up the right sort of monitoring and alerting in the future. The next thing I would like to touch upon is okay, Bizzle, you set up the platform and made the right technology choices, but you do need to measure your platform's working. Um, think about certain metrics which you will show in the future, and then you can measure those and identify bottlenecks, zoom in and present yourself or plan yourself for success. If we move to the next slide, we can see certain security metrics like the level of preparedness, number of incidents, etc. And then there are DORA metrics, which tells you how well your work is flowing through the pipeline. In addition, there are certain team metrics and platform metrics which tells you which are the most used APIs, what is the cost to run those APIs. These are definitely factors that you should consider measuring so you can identify performance bottlenecks, choke points, etc., and zoom in, make the things better in the pipeline in those areas, and then, of course, continuous improvement, keep measuring and comparing against your previous behaviors. Once the technologies choices are made, the next big area to focus is the team culture and principles. If the team needs to be scalable, then there should be some fundamental guiding principles that should be followed by every single member alike. The first being reusability and modularity. Unless we have modular functionalities which are well published and well discovered, as the team scales, people are going to start writing the same thing over and over and can become a maintenance nightmare. Think of having developer forums where you can introduce these modular concepts. You can explain these to the people with working with you. The topics brought in need not be, this new every time. There could be certain fundamental concepts, and which you would want to collaborate and share with your team over time. So you can repeat yourselves, use that as an opportunity for people to ask questions about the components they need to build. Automate, automate, and automate. I can't insist enough on the need for automation for having a scalable API team. It should be at every single level, right from your repository creation, code templates, pull request reviews, testing automation, your path to production activities, your production deployment, measurement of metrics after you go live. So everything needs to be automated to make it scalable, repeatable, and consistent. Well, we all get pulled into the pressures of delivery, but the team needs to foster an environment to promote curiosity and innovation. Keep poking each other to learn something new today and keep yourself updated. Otherwise, it's very often that in this world we can become obsolete and outdated, which is not good for any self or for the organization. Well, after doing all the right choices and fostering good things, there could still be certain hurdles or speed bumps that you hit to. I can hear everyone saying, then what's the point? Well, sometimes, being prepared for the hurdles in itself is an effective strategy. Things that worked in a small team might not work in a larger team. So knowledge gaps can keep creeping in. Think about having a manageable sized squad centering around one or two SMEs, having a person to reach out to for your questions or your solutions, reviewing your solutions can sometimes boost the confidence of the team members. Well, a word of caution about this, that the SMEs tend to get burnt out. So please be mindful of the manageable team size here, and don't scale too much until the new members are confident and comfortable by themselves. And who knows, they can become an SME by themselves and spin up another squad for you. Manual activities, however minuscule, please look through it and add some effort to make them into automated activities, because that's the only way you can scale consistently. If your code metrics are pointing that the code quality is taking a hit, tighten up your code review processes. Leverage a central governance team which can be used for solving your repeatable activities that are coming through. Have a look through your design review processes. Like Satya mentioned, there is a lot of automation, but a central leverage team, governance team, which can monitor certain code review processes can help as well. Even when you've done everything right, consider that there are interfacing systems which can slow you down. They may not be at the same maturity as you, and it may not be that workflows as fast. So understand that in a pipeline, you can only go as fast as your slowest team. So take that into consideration whenever you're giving estimates for certain piece of work, or you're trying to scale a team to achieve certain uh, outcome. So please be mindful of the interfacing systems that can slow you down as well. I'll hand it back to you, Satya, now.
Thank you, Matangi. So the next on the list, the last point that we want to talk about is on effective team scaling. So the first thing when we think about effective team scaling is to add to the headcounts. Recruitment be the first, right? So it's nothing wrong. Yes, recruitment is the place to start, but no compromise on recruitment to scale takes us a long way in the journey. Yeah, the speed at which you recruit, expand can be slow at the beginning, but taking careful considerations to hire the right talent into the team is going to help boost the team performance and in turn help with the scalability in the long run. And often, as we expand, it's not possible to get the things delivered just by having teams in a single geographical location. So, we might need to expand it to different geographical locations as a distributed team. And immediately, the complexities of communications, collaboration, working in different time zone, different cultural aspects, all these comes into play. Yeah, having a SME in a particular location is the key. Just get that sorted in one location and then start the team very small and then slowly expand, and ensure that the team is really independent and self-sufficient and very comfortable before you can expand to the other teams. Uh, Having a centralized or a decentralized team naturally depends upon the maturity of your API landscape within the organization. So, in our experience, having a centralized API team with a clear plan to decentralize as we mature our technology and business spaces is ideal. And this centralized team will focus on creating standards, principle, guidelines, all these kind of things with an enabling functions which can be used by the federated API teams so that they can be autonomous and self-sufficient. And this federated API team topology works very well only when there is enough and the right amount of automation in place. And along with this enabling function, we should also focus on getting a very matured community of practice and a clear decision making pyramids in such a way that any changes can be very much controlled without impacting the velocity of the teams. Yeah. So I just wanted to take a pause here. And we have seen these 6 scaling considerations today based on our different experiences. All this might seem too much to take in, but making the right choices when we start small takes us a long way as we scale up. Yeah. And while scaling cannot be avoided, it is to be flipped and to be considered and seen as opportunities for growth for the organization. The idea is to evaluate and progress through in a very sustainable manner so we can support the business, technology, and the team. At the end of the day, teams or the people are our greatest assets, and we do not want to burn them as we scale and demotivate them. They should always be looking forward to come to the office the very next day and learn from as we grow as well. Okay. So here are our key takeaways from this talk. First one, align your API strategy. Provide an inbuilt governance as early as possible. Bring APIs as products. Talk to the business, understand their customer journeys, cultivate an outside in thinking. Let it all be make sense to create it as API products. Choose the right technology for future scaling, be it infrastructure or even the development platforms. Choose the right team topology. Centralized or decentralized doesn't matter, but it depends on your operating model and also your API landscape maturity within the organization. Measure and fine tune, repeatability, consistency, and learn, and bring it into action. Yeah. And above all, we are not God and we cannot avoid surprises. So be ready for change and adapt to the change. Yeah. With that, we just want to leave you all with this quote. All we are trying to say is walk before you run and run before you fly. Yeah. So we use this particular quote quite a lot in our team. So um, uh, so all that we have spoken about, try to ensure you take careful consideration so every time you can do better. With that, thank you all. Please do stay connected and our LinkedIn QR codes there and enjoy your rest of your talks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.